The Democrats are losing their minds again. Not since yesterday have they been so agitated. Trump said we're going to round up the illegals, and that's what we're doing. One of the things he ran on, one of the things we all voted for. So ICE goes into the corrupt, pirate-filled, warlord-governed state of Snogadishu, or Minnesota, as some of you may still call it. Biden left the door open for 4 years, even bulldozing razor wire to allow unchecked foreigners into your country. And let me remind you, this was during a lockdown of American citizens for a pandemic. You Americans stay home, wear masks, get the experimental vaccine. That's not really a vaccine because we changed the definition to suit our needs, just like George Orwell predicted. But nevertheless, while we open the gates and let third worlders flood in without any medical checks or pandemic tests, explain to me, as if I was from Rio Linda, how that would make any sense to anybody. Crying about diversity, but only in America. No one is offering to be the first plane of white liberal women to the Congo to diversify them. No buses of white liberal women are heading to Mogadishu to diversify over there. It just came out that Finland is the happiest place in the world. Every photo in the article, there's one ingredient missing. That's right, Snerbley. There's absolutely no pictures of immigrants running around. Every picture of Finland are a bunch of white Finnish people. And anyone who calls it out and notices it, oh, what are you, racist? You must be racist if you're pointing out they have no immigrants there. No, we know they have no immigrants there because it's the happiest place on earth, apparently. The Japanese Prime Minister said, kick rocks. Japan is for the Japanese. And what is the problem with that? Do you think I have a problem with the Asian lady telling me that white men shouldn't be even close to a majority in Japan? Hell no, I don't. Because I'm not an obnoxious invader that feels entitled to trample across the world because I don't like where my parents lived. Would any of you non-Asians be upset about that? Places have the right to be the places that they are. Don't you like traveling to a different country and seeing the different areas and different cultures, different towns, different places? They want none of that. They want gray, colorless, corporate drab as far as the eye can see. Look at how all the fast food places have changed over the years. They went from these colorful places for mainly children. And now they think they're actual restaurants because some corporate babe came out of business school and explained to them a new business model. Look at the Cracker Barrel babe that tanked the brand with her, let's remove the unique style and opt for the corporate brand. They don't get it. And I'll never understand any company that keeps hiring them. Maybe they're not. They're all becoming unemployed, and that's why they're the only ones out there demanding diversity in everything except HR and the NBA. While being the most undiverse group of protesters. It's all old white single cat ladies protesting. ICE literally has more diverse staff than the protesters. And now they want to blow whistles and obstruct procedures and smash cars and kick taillights and what have you. Too many years of Biden telling everyone destruction is justified for protest. You do not have the right to protest in America. Let me repeat that. You have no right to protest in America. You do, however, have the right to peacefully assemble. And burning down police departments, assaulting fellow citizens, destruction of property, or entering churches isn't that. So a bunch of liberal Democrats stormed a church and terrorized the worshipers, and they defend the action while anyone with half a brain can clearly see it as what it is, terrorism. By definition, quote, the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims, end quote. That's the definition. Pretty open and shut case if you're the prosecutor. Especially now that we've seen the footage of Don Lemon in the car saying himself that he can't go inside. They would have to stay outside. He says it multiple times. He knew it was the wrong thing to do. If it wasn't for Democrats, we wouldn't have the anti-KKK laws we have that had to stop them from doing this nonsense in the past. Our terrorism and racism laws are for the left and their tantrums of losing throughout history in our country. And they are desperate when they're losing. And they're losing big. They're lashing out in desperation. And they're getting dangerously close, escalating this past rhetoric into very dangerous levels. Jamal Lundy was there, interviewed by Don Lemon. And do you know who he is? He's a top aide to Minnesota prosecutor Mary Moriarty. He's married to St. Paul City Councilwoman Anika Bowie, and now he's running for a seat in the state legislature. A law expert that breaks and enters and terrorizes people and thinks it's okay because he didn't get high grades in any law classes. High-profile Democrat that works for another high-profile Democrat that are embedded with activists and not upholding the law but prioritizing SJW BS over actual law. Rotten to the core. And this is why they sacrificed the cop for a drug addict, and there's no way the cop would ever get a fair trial. It was a sacrifice to the Democrat lynch mobs, just like they've always done throughout the history of America. Don Lemon says he was only there as an observer after bringing them donuts and coffee. He shoved a microphone into the pastor's face as he's asking them to leave, and spouting the group's talking points as if he's the spokesperson. Don Lemon would go with the cartel to sell underage children to the black market and say he's doing a journalism. I've said it before, folks. Democrats dismiss, deflect, and defend all these actions. A church is an open door to go inside and protest? Let me know how that goes when the Proud Boys storm a mosque, or your satanic temple of Anton LaVey hippies. Or, imagine if that church was armed, and since someone already shot up a church recently, what if they all opened fire on the trespassers? The media would be 24/7 coverage of what terrorism was, and they would be out for blood. If you don't see the selective outrage at this point, there's no teaching you. Use any one of them as the example of what happens when you mess around, and once they're in jail, the rest will see the light. Look at the difference already in Minnesota when they realized they were finished and Tampon Timmy and jihadi Jacob Fry caved into the feds anyway. Could have saved 2 lives just by following the policy just like they did with Obama, their own voters. But they decided to make theater out of it, rile their low IQers, and 2 of them lost their lives. Remember, just like I said before, you can't take a group of unintelligent people and constantly tell them they're the French resistance and the political enemies are the incoming German forces. When you tell them they will destroy the country, they believe you literally. When you say they're fascists coming to jail them all, they believe you literally. And now we have a woman that drove down to harass the police, shot. And the man that went to kick more taillights, shot. And the Democrats blame everyone else while standing on their corpse with a megaphone. I was watching the Reagan movie with Dennis Quaid. There was a scene, remember back when Reagan was shot, he was brought into the surgeons, and he made the famous joke, "I hope you're all Republicans." And the doctor famously replied, "We're all Republicans today, sir." We don't live in that world anymore. Those people were all Americans. You've seen the videos of today's vile nurses on TikTok, threatening the lives of people that are political opponents. Do you think Reagan would get the fair shake in the hospital today? How many of the staff would be appalled that the president has been brought there? They'd all be in their cars crying on TikTok. They just brought the president here and I'm not gonna work. Who caused this change in their voters? It sure the hell wasn't the right. Democrats have gone full Muslim, riling their followers up for suicidal battles that you will never find a Democratic leader at. They'll tell you the right are Nazis, and they'll tell you that 50 million of you might have to die, but it'll be worth it to those of them that survive. You hear this clown from Breaking Bad? His only Hollywood legacy is background guy until Breaking Bad in one of the Star Wars Disney movies the Disney show, and one of the Disney Star Wars shows that no one watches anymore, and now he's dressed like the hierarchy from the Hunger Games, while telling you to bring a gun to a protest and get killed so he can stand on your corpse to shout his political ideology. We'll be seeing suicide bombers on the left soon, blowing themselves up because the gas station attendant misgendered them. They will stand on every corpse they can to shout their slogans and try to berate you into policy change. That's exactly why people started thinking school shootings were psyops, because anytime one happened, they were all over TV blaming the guns and trying to take them away from you. So now the riled up cat ladies are calling black ICE officers the N-word. The people that call the ICE agents Nazis are now setting up roadblocks to check IDs of anyone coming in, so they can know who's coming or going. Folks, you can't make this up. Almost as if that law was already in place by officials allowed to do that. They were against that. They don't hate the police, they envy them. They want to be the ones to tell you what to do and how to live and where you can go and how you can think. The mental gymnastics to try and understand their thinking will turn your brain to mush. Because the new game of the left is playing stupid as to how everything works as their way of coming off as intelligent somehow. What do you mean, Constitution? What do you mean, legal? What is American culture? What is assimilation? When your opponent demands that you explain common sense to them, you are wasting your time. Imagine thinking you're a citizen stopping others from traveling and putting up barricades and thinking you're the good guys and don't look like hypocrites. Storming churches of scared children to shout your mantras and demands. But I believe you need an IQ of at least 75 to understand the concepts of hypocrisy or shame, so that leaves out 89% of the modern left. They have branded themselves as the party of mental issues and single white cat ladies, and their emotional anxieties and fears are off the charts. The end of World War II. Japanese citizens were cornered by incoming Americans. As the Americans approached to liberate these people, they were just citizens, they saw the Japanese families in terror. The Americans tried to move in closer and help the people, and they started jumping off of cliffs behind them. They couldn't save any. They were told how evil the Americans were and not to get captured by any means. Same the Indians told their people. Same the Muslims told theirs. And now we have Democrats following the same suicidal indoctrinating programming in their followers. They will gladly sacrifice their own constituents' lives for power. Change their party name to Cobra, go international, and just call it a day. Democrats are becoming Muslims, inciting suicide in their followers, taking over streets with garbage to block traffic. Next thing, they'll be chewing khat and burning tires and storming freighters in the ocean. They're turning Minnesota into Mogadishu and think it's helping them to the normal voters. American citizens killed by illegals? Hollywood doesn't care. Hell's bells, they don't bat an eye when one of them is the victim. You think they'd stop for you? Who the hell are you but flyover country? Bob Clark killed. Wikipedia. Clark and his younger son Ariel, 22, killed in a head-on crash on the Pacific Coast Highway in Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles. That's all it says. What actually happened? Hector Nava, a 24-year-old illegal immigrant living in Los Angeles, was driving a sport utility vehicle that struck Clark's car Wednesday, killing him and 22-year-old son. Going out of their way to run cover for a foreign drunk driver that killed a beloved American filmmaker and his 22-year-old son. Black Christmas, Porky's 1 and 2, A Christmas Story, Turk 182. Prince overdoses. The fentanyl that led to his overdose was laced in counterfeit hydrocodone paracetamol pills. The world cried for a day or two, then no one cared. Should have been a national outcry for closing the borders and tackling the fentanyl problem, but nope, Prince wasn't worth it either. Those two events alone should have kicked off a whole era of border enforcement, but everyone just shrugged it off and said, oh, we're against that now. Because the far left took over their party, and they stood around and saw the insane agendas and shrugged and said, oh, I guess this is what we're for now. Lawlessness. And anyone but Americans. Prosecute the judges that let them go after breaking in or violent crimes, etc. If bartenders can be held responsible for drunk drivers they've served, a judge should be 100% accountable for releasing someone that commits more murder. Videos of the Democrats from 2008 make them branded as Nazis by their own party now. We've seen Hillary and Obama and Schumer all calling for immigration laws to be enforced. What changed? Them, the payoffs they're taking. Snerbley, have you seen this study about paramedics? Their wages have gone up 0 since 1996. Everything else? Health insurance, 190%. Groceries, 125%. College, 150%. Cars, 90%. Housing, 67%. If you snapped your fingers and every illegal was gone, imagine the job wages exploding, parking spots available everywhere, ERs and hospitals become manageable, DUI deaths drop, rape and violent crime drops, the country budget can be adjusted to start helping America instead of babysitting guests that hate us. Teenagers can get their starter jobs now, held by ignorant grown adults trying to feed a family of 4. We didn't ask you to come here. You came here on your own. Didn't you get the memo from AOC or The View about how horrible and racist it is here? And you still walked for weeks and broke in. What do they know that the Democrats don't? Reality. This is where we live, and it should be affordable to Americans, not bending over backwards for foreigners while giving the citizens the shaft. And if your first thought is to go to your, you took the land, blah, 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 then you are admitting that you are trying to conquer us by doing it in extremely cowardly fashion by trying to use our own laws against us rather than meeting us on a battlefield that you know you'll lose. If you're admitting it's a battle for ownership, then by all means, let's meet on the battlefield as we have all throughout time. But you won't. Because you'll lose even faster than your ancestors did. They threw rocks at rifles. You can't run half a block without collapsing. No matter what the internet tells you, you'd never make it. If your goal is to infiltrate our country and fundamentally change it from its created form that was left to us by our ancestors, then not only is it our every right to stop you from coming here, but it's also our obligation. Everyone that lives here is getting pissed off for being purposely left behind in their own country. They talk about why Americans aren't having kids. No one can afford it. They buy a dog and pretend it's a kid. It's cheaper. No back talk. Then they dole out $2,500 debit cards to illegal aliens and force posh hotels to put them up so they can drink all day. And the media and powers that be mock you for not being able to reproduce and multiply and have families while they fully encourage others to pop out kids for government paychecks. Imagine bragging that you're speeding the country along to the movie Idiocracy. These are your elected leaders, folks. American birth rates drop, and the hillbillies of the world multiply, and your leaders cheer this. And now we have the children being paraded around by the single female teachers and the female men teachers that condone students walking out of class to protest. And every one of these schools has failing records of education. Teachers are taking your children. Instead of giving them an education, they see your children as their children, and they have some sick, twisted obsession with them. I had a female dog that never had babies. Once in a while, she would go crazy and pretend her toys were her babies. She would growl if you went near them. She would nest them in her bed. Crazy old lady dog. Those are the American teachers now. No one is going to give them a child of their own, and they pretend to endorse it. Then they go crazy like my dog, and think your children are their children. And their broken psychotic minds are proud, not when Johnny can read. They're proud when Johnny paints his nails and says he's gender fluid. Your child, not theirs. Every teacher that allowed children to walk out of school should be fired. Every teacher that paraded around kindergartners for propaganda need to be fired. Children cannot develop until 25, and every adult knows this. If you're proud and saying they know what they're doing, you're a fool and should not be around children because they don't. They're going to grow up and realize how much they hate you and what you did to them. You're the adult, and you should know better. If you don't, you definitely should not be educating children or even be around them. They want your kids because they will never have any of their own. And like the proud old lady maid will tell you, it's by their choice only. Sorry, ladies, you don't get to play hard to get when you're hard to want. Teachers disinvested proving liberal women are emotional. They think emotional. They act emotional. We don't need them in the streets thinking they're fighting the incoming Germans. And any adult knows better. All the musicians no one knows got together to give out awards for music no one listens to and had their pins on at the Grammys to express their feelings about ICE. And that little deranged Billie Eilish made one of the dumbest comments in years, and while the whole room clapped as if they just hung a straight white male, the internet shredded her in seconds. And it was already gone by the Oscars. No Oscars people were wearing ice pins. It's all about Iran now. It's the new thing. I think they've even come up with a pin that is just like the symbol for whatever the cause is right now. It's just like one pin, you put it on your lapel, and then you're covered for 20 different mental issues. As we said before, CNN was amazed seeing the polls that all Americans want all illegals deported. Over 56% of every poll wants all illegals gone. All. Keep ignoring the people, and that's when you get a leader that will really bother the left. The people will get sick of demanding results while the left pussyfoots around, and then someone comes along and will say, "Do you want me to clean up the mess?" And the people will scream, "Yes, we don't even care how you do it." That's when they'll realize what they really did, because the silent majority will rise and erase their party. And the ones that laughed at Charlie Kirk being assassinated will scream, "Where are the moderates?" And we will remind them, you killed them. We are what is left now. We voted for this. We voted for all of this. Your meltdowns. Every time you go in your car and cry in your TikTok, we love it. Keep them coming. The Democrats leave a cavity until it needs to be pulled, and then call the dentist a fascist for removing it.